It is finally here. Eagles training camp set to arrive next week, and there are some interesting camp battles that we must keep an eye on. A couple battles that will probably determine whether or not the Eagles can be elite again and make another run at a Super Bowl. So we will break it down and preview everything you need to know. And of course, another list put out today by ESPN by people who have no clue what they're talking about and continue to disrespect the Eagles. We'll talk about it all. But welcome into A to Z Philly. I'm RB. And unfortunately, we have to start it off with some very sad news today as the Eagles announced the passing of Bryan. We just talked about this last week, former Super Bowl champion. Actually had a big special teams play early in that postseason against the Falcons, and a very vocal guy in the locker room, and he was dealing with an aggressive form of cancer. So it is a very sad day for Eagles Nation, the Eagles family, and of course the Braman family. So we must keep all of them in our prayers, and rest in peace to former Eagles Super Bowl champ Bryan. Now, before we talk about the training camp stuff, real quick, we have to dive into this top 10 wide receivers list from Jeremy Fowler at ESPN. Last week, we talked about the Jalen Hurts one. And like I said, I don't really get over the edge angry anymore at these lists because I know what their agenda is. They continue to try to bring down the birds, right? But they named the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL. Jamar Chase at number 1. Okay, fine. Really good receiver. Definitely deserves to be in the top 3. Justin Jefferson, another guy that deserves to be at the top. I think A.J. Brown should be number 3, or at least in the top 3. Am I right? Am I wrong? I think Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and A.J. are the top 3. But ESPN doesn't. They have Tyreek Hill at number 3. Do they have A.J. at 4? No, they have CeeDee Lamb, a guy that's been on a loser organization his entire career. And there's A.J. at number 5. So you're telling me that Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb are better than A.J. Brown? I mean, we could take an hour and go through all the stats and the games and this, and that. You watch A.J. Brown, you watch his impact. He is a winner. He is one of the most physically dominant wide receivers I've ever seen in my life. And in 3 years with the Philadelphia Eagles, this guy has broken almost every receiver record that there is. So that's all I'm going to say about it. And did they put DeVonta Smith in the top 10? No, not at 6, not at 7. They have Malik Neighbors, who was a rookie last year. Number 8, Nico Collins. Number 9, Mike Evans. And at number 10, Garrett Wilson, who just got paid recently as well. So look, I kind of understand not having Smitty in the top 10 just because of his usage. Like, Devontae's definitely worthy of being a top 5 receiver if he was used as a number 1. So if you want to make that argument, okay. But AJ not being in the top 3 is absolutely ridiculous, and ESPN continues to disrespect the Philadelphia Eagles. However, I guess we're more on the PFF stan wave now, right? PFF has A.J. Brown as the number 1 wide receiver on the PFF 50 and the number 16th overall ranked player. First in receiving grade, first in receptions, first in receiving yards, and first in first down since joining the Birds. So thank you for someone actually recognizing the superior dominance of A.J. Brown against single coverage. All right, man, enough of that. Let's talk about training camp because it is like 5 days away, 4 days away, whatever it is at this point. So we look at the Eagles depth chart right now on ESPN, and I don't always like to go by ESPN, but let's just say this is, a pretty solid template for what their depth is going to look like as we head into camp. We've talked about it all offseason. The Eagles are not like every other team where, they're going to have 21 battles going into camp. No, it's not going to be like that. We know their entire offense is pretty much locked down with the exception of one. And then on the defensive side, they had to do a lot of work this offseason. They lost some vets. They got younger, had a guy retire. And, they already won the Super Bowl with a primarily young defense. They're one of the youngest teams in the league again. So that's how they're kind of trending as they move into this next phase of the offseason. So really the main battles that we have to watch out for are the 3 that we have talked about all offseason. Okay, it's the right guard, it is the second cornerback, and the safety. Are there any others? Give me your thoughts down in the comments. What is your most anticipated camp battle as we head into next week? Although there's only a couple, and that's a really good thing to have, a good situation with how dominant this team is. Those couple battles, I think, are going to be the entire storyline. Because we already know what Jalen Hurts can do and Saquon, right? It's not like a new story, and AJ and DeVonta, we know what those guys are going to be and how they can perform. Now, I do think it's fair that once we get into the preseason, the season, we want to see how Kevin Patullo really runs this offense. And that'll be like the second half of it. But in terms of camp battles, on the offensive side, Tyler Steen seems to be the guy, right? You go out, you trade for Quinyon Green. Cool, love it. He's kind of a throw-in the C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade. Tyler Steen was drafted with a pretty high draft pick. They believed in him. He had an injury last year in preseason, and he never got his job back. Mekhi Becton was splendid. But Tyler Steen started a game last year. They believe in him, went to a big school, and he just kind of goes in the line of how the Eagles develop offensive linemen. So I would anticipate that they have some pretty good belief in Tyler Steen, and it's his job to lose. Do we agree? Do we disagree? If he doesn't come out and perform well, they have a former vet, Matt Pryor, who's there. They have Quinyon Green, Marcus Tate, and a couple others as well. So give me your thoughts on Tyler Steen. But the very intriguing one gets to the defensive side of the ball. And after this, we're going to look at a few guys that Dave Zangaro of NBC Philly listed as roster bubble guys, pretty much who are on the verge of making those final spots or getting cut. But on the defensive side, I think the safety battle is going to be the most intriguing thing as we head into camp, because somebody made a good point about this, and I forget who it was. Last year, Quinyon Mitchell didn't even get on the field for a while. Like Vic Fangio was kind of in that traditional mode of, look, let's throw the vets out there first, see what they can do. Then we'll start to rotate in the young guys. Cooper DeJean was hurt, right? But once Quinyon got on that field, he never stepped off. This year, based on the Eagles winning the Super Bowl and where they're at with the safety depth, Andrew Mukuba in the spring practices and the OTAs was already running first team. He was getting first team reps. So they draft him in the second round. He's already on the field. It's not like, we haven't seen him yet and Vic's probably going to wait till the preseason games. No, like you're throwing this guy into the fire, and you also got rid of a really talented safety, maybe a hothead in C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but a damn good all-pro safety. So you get rid of that guy, and Eagles fans know that whoever steps in is going to have to make their impact felt right away. Is it going to be Andrew Mukuba? Is it going to be Sidney Brown? I don't think Tristan McCollum is in that mix, but that battle between a former third-round pick who has shown promise at times, never really had the consistency or the opportunities, I'd say, in Sidney Brown, versus the guy they invested in this year in the second round to go out and get it done, who kind of feels like a mini CJ GJ. So I'm really excited to see what Mukuba can do. Can he take the reins and take that position? That is the most intriguing battle. And the other one is in the secondary as well. It is the corner. We know they lost Slay and Isaiah Rodgers, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean on the inside. Who's going to be the second corner on the outside? You sign Adoree Jackson to a one-year deal, but Kelee Ringo, former fourth-round pick, Georgia Bulldog, a guy that they have been internally developing for a couple years, right? Started some games in 23, and based on the guys that were on the roster, didn't really have a shot last year, played a little bit of special teams. Kelee Ringo has a chance right now to step up and make his impact felt, and not only win this job, but probably earn himself some money in a year or two. So if Kelee Ringo can fit that mold, I think the Eagles really have the dominoes in place here to have a very strong defense, to be one of the top defenses in the league again. Maybe not as dominant as last year, but maybe. Zach Bowen said a couple weeks ago, this team's already ahead of where they were progression-wise last year. The linebacker position is going to be interesting to see, how the injuries play out with Nakobe and Jahad Campbell, but you feel like you have pretty good depth there. And also the edge rusher, right? Can Nolan Smith continue to develop and be that guy and go for a double-digit sack this year? Can Jalix Hunt continue to build on what he did at the end of last year? These are all things we get to watch play out, but I feel pretty confident about the team. Reed Blankenship on a contract year. How will he emerge as a leader on the defense like he already has in years past? What about some of these one-year guys you brought in? Adoree Jackson, Azeez Ojulari, can they impact the field? I think there is a possibility where once we get through camp, maybe Howie Roseman's saying, we need a little more veteran presence here or there. We talked about that last week, right, with the edge rushers, but he has the assets to go out and improve the team. He has the leverage, the draft capital, all that. But what young guys are going to step up and be most improved? Like, who's going to take the bull by the horn? You know what I'm saying? I love training camp for that reason and that reason only. It makes guys shine. Like, the guys step up and they seized the moment. But lastly, Dave Zangaro highlights some of the roster bubble players, 15 guys that could make the roster or could be the final cuts. He has Thomas Booker, Harrison Bryant, Lewis Cine, A.J. Dillon, Kylan Granson, Kenyon Green, Pat Johnson, Darian Kennard, Kendall Lamb, Terrace Marshall, Matt Pryor, Eli Ricks, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Josh Uche, and Ben Van Sumeren. So I think all those guys are pretty good picks for guys that could be on the bubble. A few from this list that I think will end up making the roster. I think that one of these tight ends, whether it's Harrison Bryant or Kylan Granson, will be that final tight end. Lewis Cine is a guy that a lot of people like, but just hasn't really had the opportunity to show it. I do think A.J. Dillon could be a hit or miss. Like if he comes out and he's actually healthy, I think he'd be a nice complimentary power back, even though I know they like Will Shipley a lot. I think Kenyon Green will make the roster as a depth piece, and I think Terrace Marshall could end up being that third wide receiver, especially given that this could be Jahan Dotson's last year with the Eagles. So all of those guys are guys to keep your eyes on. Matt Pryor, former Eagles vet, right? Eli Ricks has kind of been back and forth over the years, been very close to being cut, but they've kept him around for a reason. The quarterback situation. So there's a lot of interesting things. We will get an idea before the preseason of what this roster and this depth chart is going to look like. Eagles football is back. I am so excited from going to the Super Bowl parade and just feeling the energy and the ambition in this city and the hype around the Eagles, because let's be honest, they are carrying this city right now. What do you want to see happen? Give me your thoughts. Appreciate y'all for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I will catch you on the next one.